moment right now. I'm taking my fear and make it disappear. I'll make it work it and I'll show you how. I won't let them get me down. I wanna be stronger, always remain true to myself. Let me explain. I'm so fast cause I'm hyperactive. Let go plus I think it makes me unattractive. But time goes fast, we should act like a fire, burning everything we know and what we require. I'm the last who maybe is a bit reflective. We're just wrecks of all self-destructive passion. But time goes fast, we should act like a fire, burning everything we know and what we desire. You get what I say. There will be better days. You get what I say. Start to make some peace, let yourself breathe. You get what I say. When you know, when you know, when you know there's a better place to reach. There will be better days. Don't get yourself seized, let your feelings ease.
And I've been chillin', watching the ocean with you. Baby up with a slow motion crew. And we up in our cloudlands when people change, but not us. And we just chillin', kicking it, kissed by the sun. Could be soaked to the skin in the mall soon. I know she got the good vibes when seasons change, but we're the same. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word, cause you got me holding, holding. Even if my jokes aren't funny, my tongue tied up on it. And I don't need to speak a single word, cause you got me holding, holding. Cause you got me holding, holding. Cause you got me holding. And I'll be running, possessed by a low, low voodoo. Fired up like a wolf on a full moon. And we're stuck in a la la land. The tides will turn without us. And I'll be killing time like I might be a cartoon. Take it in real life like haiku. I know we got the good vibes when pieces fall right into place. Even if I lost all my money, the zero runs deep, honey. And I don't need to speak a single word,
just want to be myself. Don't talk to nobody else. I want to be someone special. I don't want to be a typical person. To get away from all devil. Start from fresh with a fundamental. I feel it, I feel it right. I feel it right. I feel it right. I feel it right. I'm learning how to be a better version of you. And now I realize I'm talking to myself. Doesn't really need to be forever. Doesn't make you feel better. I feel it, I feel it right. I feel it right. I feel it, I feel it right. I feel it right. Wanna feel it. Wanna feel it. Wanna feel it.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first day of the second qualifier for Blitz Season 2. I'm Alias, being joined by Chaka. And I don't know if you casted the last week, but I didn't, because Hurricane Milton was knocking on my doorstep. I was actually in the direct path, so I'm back now. But, I survived, maybe to some people's dismay, but that's okay. But, we have a matchup to go through. Why don't you give us a little bit of thoughts on that, some analysis, if you will?
Yeah, so we're going to be covering Revenge Nations versus Fluffy Aimers, and I'm excited for this game because Fluffy Aimers recently made a roster change. I'm not going to tell you who they made the roster change for because I'm going to be completely honest, I don't know. But I do know that Snake has been introduced into the Fluffy Aimers roster, whereas Revenge Nation is more of a mystery to me. So I'm excited to see both of these two teams play, not only just to see how Snake fits in with the Fluffy Aimers roster, who has certainly gained a lot of fame over the coming months, especially during wildcard restart, just because of how well they did against the Pro League teams. But also, I want to see how Revenge Nation play because I don't know anything about this team.
Yeah, this is kind of one of those matches that is a bit of a mystery. Revenge Nation is an org that, if you've been around for a while, you will probably recognize. They have had several very, very good teams. If I recall, there was one back in the day that was like JJ and like Gavini and Trevmac that was considered to be like up next for CL before it ended up kind of falling apart. But stuff like that happens sometimes, and it's interesting to see them kind of still stick around, but maybe not on the same capacity. But they're going up against Fluffy Aimers, who we know very, very well, and Snake is no slouch himself. We actually know that he was in contention for the Beast Coast roster that won the Manchester Major. So getting experience like that on the team when you already have such an established core that is so good can oftentimes just be very, very good. So we'll just kind of have to see how that manifests.
And certainly we will have to see how that goes, especially considering that, I want to look at our maps specifically because that'll be the end all be all to see how all these teams play. One of the biggest parts of Siege, and looking at the first few map bins, all of this makes sense. Lair is not a popular map by any means for Fluffy Aimers, and Labs is a really good map for Fluffy Aimers. So not only do Revenge Nation know who Fluffy Aimers are, as we all do, but they also do their research and understands some of the strong points of Fluffy Aimers and do well to translate that into the map bin here today.
Yeah, I think for best of threes, you have to be a little bit careful with the way you go about map bans, just because you get to ban less things, and your opponents get to pick things far, far sooner. So just getting a great map like that off the board makes perfect sense. Cafe and Consulate are going to be the first but two battlegrounds we have. We're going to see these two at least, maybe with a decider later. But Cafe has kind of replaced Oregon for a lot of teams as that, we just know this map fundamentally well kind of battleground. And then Fluffy Aimers, having been around for a while, they've been pretty proficient at Consulate, and it kind of makes sense that we're going to see maps like that from them, since it's a map they're good at, but not like one that they're showing too much of, so they can save a little bit for the main season.
Yep, you got Consulate, which is more of a 50-50 for Fluffy Aimers. Again, I don't really know too much about Revenge Nation, but I do know for a fact that for Cafe, specifically for Fluffy Aimers, that's a really good map for them. So now moving forward into the ban phase, I do want to look at the Decider really, really quickly, just to determine how the series will go if it goes to a 3-map series. And that was what I was afraid of. Clubhouse is going to be picked by, or decided on by, not Revenge Nation, but decided on in general, just because Fluffy Aimers did have that last ban of Chalet, leaving Clubhouse up as the decider. And Clubhouse is a really good map for Fluffy Aimers. They have a pretty good record on it. They are a fundamentally sound team, and they're also really, really aggressive almost in every single game that I play into, or every single game that I watch, which is what Clubhouse is really, really good at playing into.
There are also a lot of ways to just kind of cut the map in half from various angles on Clubhouse, and so it does lend itself, I think, to a team like Fluffy Aimers. It'll have a little bit more weight to push some players around on Revenge Nation if we get to that point. So we'll see how that goes. Although I'm sure for most people, they're probably kind of anticipating this to be a quick death for Revenge Nation, but who knows? We'll have to see. The game has not yet begun, so let us not draw conclusions. Cafe is where we're going to find ourselves first, as we look to see how these teams can set themselves up on this first map. Now, typically, for those of you who have not seen this type of thing, you're typically going to win your own map pick, then lose out on your opponents. So Revenge Nation are going to be going into this with a little bit of pressure on themselves to win this, as if they lose this and they give Fluffy Aimers their own map pick while already being up on the series, that could put you in a very awkward place when you are the underdog as they are.
Being the underdog, this certainly does have its advantages, because you don't have as much pressure on you as, say, Fluffy Aimers, who are expected to win this match and also be favorites for the BLITZ suite. So I'm very excited that we're going to get headed into map number 1, is Cafe, and Fluffy Aimers is going to start us off with the ban phase. Capital is first, which is a very interesting one, I think, specifically for Cafe, that makes a lot of sense, but you do not see a Capital ban, especially when you have other operators like Monty, BLITZ, the Shields, Ying, and Dokkaebi available.
This is a very common ban for Fluffy Aimers on this map. They seem to not like him at all. Floor is also not as common of a ban, but still a pretty sensible one if you kind of know how the map works. There are a lot of shields and different pieces of utility, such as castle barricades, that are being put in power positions that you don't want to allow your opponents to be able to easily destroy, but they're also going to ban out that Wamai, which means that positions like, say, Pixel, where you'll often see a shield, is going to be much harder to hold on to, since there's not as much active utility being placed on it. And it's also an interesting ban with that Capital being gone. So we'll kind of see how that affects things, as the bans here, aside from the Mira, have all been a little bit wacky and a little bit off meta.
Yeah, and I'm gonna think that the reason why there are no shield bans is because I don't think Fluffy Aimers are a team that plays a lot of shields. Like, sure, JJ has played it like sometimes, but you usually, more often than not, see him on a gun rather than an actual shield like a Monty or BLITZ. And when I have watched Fluffy Aimers play, yeah, again, they don't really adopt the shield play as much as other teams have in this current meta of Siege, where shields are extremely popular. Not only popular, but they're potent as well. Like, in every single round that they're played in, you will almost have a guaranteed win with them.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is because, I mean, it's like how a lot of teams for forever wouldn't play Mira even if she was up, just because she was banned so often that you just kind of got used to not having her. And I think we're starting to see something pretty similar with shields, where even if they are up, like, not a lot of people are as proficient with them just because of the fact that they're usually banned. You go into most games assuming that you're not gonna have to deal with the Monty because your opponents are going to ban it. And that is, at least for now, going to hold true with the operator picks. We're not seeing that Monty being brought out just yet. But let's take a look at the defense lineup a little bit more first, though, since that is concrete, as we're going to see dining and mining being brought out here for the first site, with a hold that is very good to hold on to some of those extremities around the site, but also above the site, as those Valkyrie cameras can provide a ton of information, which can then be acted upon by the players on Fluffy Aimers with things like Nitro Cells, or even the Lucky Floor Bang if it comes to that.
I like how almost soft first attacking round for Revenge Nation. They know that the Valkyrie is up. They know that Fluffy Aimers like to play into the Valkyrie a lot. So they picked into an IQ. They also had a Deimos, but they're going to 6-pick or re-pick rather into a Bluff this time around. More or less signaling that they do want to go for the vertical play here or this second floor site here against Fluffy Aimers. And so that's going to be really, really crucial as to what type of pushes is going to be from Revenge Nation. But also, well, how are they going to get here? Because they do have some information to play into. They're already trying to get aggressive on the third floor through windows.
That Azama is going to be clearing out Piano very, very difficult, as she can create a fortress for herself, which Rainbow is going to have to clear with his utility. Nomad as well, going to be poking at that top red area that can get around either side of Deity in this position. Could be deadly, but we know what he can do when put in these types of spots. He's made a name for himself for a reason. I also like this position that was being played by Titans, just trying to catch someone off on a rotate if they look to go through Cigar Shop, but so far no one is biting. We're seeing a lot of poking and prodding from Revenge Nation spread all around the map. They want to see if someone from Fluffy Aimers is going to move a little bit out of position, peek something they shouldn't, and give away a pick. And MP does just that, and now we see his utility and bodies start to pour in to prevent a refrag and to take some of the space to capitalize on that mistake.
Use the Yin Candelas in order to allow the bug to just move right into Cigar Shop. Swamp finds another kill just outside of the white stairs window, denying all rotations from Fluffy Aimers. You still have another player upstairs as well. Deity finds a kill through Cigar Lounge, and an MK14 shot is found with some rival who does down a player but can't quite confirm the kill. Fluffy Aimers still on the back foot with Revenge Nation and clears the total top four.
We're going to see JJ get one, equalize things out, get a second as well, leave things all up to Nomad on the side of Revenge Nation. Stuck inside a cocktail, doesn't have control of the diffuser, but he does have some util to try to dislodge some of these defenders. They're both holding across on this, though, as they don't want to give any room to Nomad. They're both trying to hold on to these positions, make sure that he can't get one-on-ones. The diffuser is outside of the building. Going to be a war to retrieve it, so he's going to go for kills instead. But look at this. Both players have just fallen off after wasting his time. Only 30 seconds remain here for Nomad to clutch out this 1 versus 2. The Malusi Jammer will give his position away, as now firing off more shots, making more rotates, revealing where he is with every new sound made. These players, they just hold fast, trying to waste his time. Takes the fight, rival wins, and instead is Fluffy Embers make a rocky but convincing first round.
Yeah, and I think a big issue in that round for Revenge Nation was a lack of intel on like the flanks that were coming in from Fluffy Aimers when they were trying to retake that top floor, as well as info when it came to clearing out the rest of that top floor. You saw a lot of Fluffy Aimer players still on the third floor that were able to be quite impactful in some of those little pocket spots in Cigar and the Cigar bar area or the cocktail bar area, and also in Cigar Lounge as well, where both players upstairs, it was Deity and then it was someone else. It was probably rival on a roomie. They were both able to get like at least some type of impact inside of that round just by sticking around on that third floor, just because Revenge Nation neglected to fully drone out that area. I will say that Revenge Nation did a good job of kind of forcing some movement from Fluffy Aimers, knowing that they like to get aggressive, sitting out on those exterior windows, and then denying rotations whenever Fluffy Aimers were trying to move and make some moves themselves inside of that round first.
10 seconds left.
On to the other second floor bomb site. We're going to go now for Fluffy Aimers. Looks like we're seeing a pretty similar lineup here on this attack from Revenge Nation, but we're seeing that Nomad being brought out instead of the Buck here. which is a change that I like, because I think part of why that last round went the way it did was just the kind of weird and off-putting positioning that Fluffy Aimers had in a lot of those positions, and this is going to help that quite a bit. Plus, if I recall, with the way phone call, you can be spotted by IQ with her scanner, so see if they can use that to gather some information. They're also going to use that IQ to just figure out where all of this utility is that Fluffy Aimers have spread around the top floor without having to expose themselves or lose their drone. Thank them, drone in this position. Just try to figure out where this attack is coming from. We already see people on top red. Deity is going to try to take that fight. So far, though, no one has exposed themselves. Well, look at this. He's going to get one, and the second as well opens things up for his team. Almost has the third as well. He gets it off the eagle on the window. Going for a fourth as well. No one's revealing themselves, however. JJ is going to get Titans as well. It leaves everything up to Lucario. Stuck on the roof here. Knows where the player is. Underneath that new hatch. Takes the fight. He wins it. 1 versus 4 now. 4 bodies to find. Minute 35 seconds to do it. Poking and prodding. Slowly wandering around the room. Trying to see if anyone will overexpose, but no one is so far. Rival runs out of that position. Gets away. As they're just trying to waste his time for as long as they can. He has everything to do in this next minute and 10 seconds.
Realistically, what can he do? He can try and get rid of the diffuser, but like again, that's in a very hot spot. Somebody's like watching the red hatch, and he gets smoked by Snake, just peeking top red into the hatch. And honestly, that's a repeat of the last round. Revenge Nation not really having a good idea of where these Fluffy Aimers players are aggressing from. In the first round, it happened through a flank when JJ was going up red stairs, and Revenge Nation had no idea that was happening. And in this round, 2 players on red, nobody on the piano window until 2 players die. And and even though those 2 players on top red just have no idea that Deity's just gonna aggress on the doorway. Like, of course he's going to do that.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
And then the player that was on the piano window jumped in as well in the middle of that gunfight, and so, I mean, it's just shooting fish in a barrel by that point. And then JJ tags on for one as well, while Lucario is trying to make something happen on the top floor. And it all just collapses for Revenge Nation, because Fluffy Aimers are, I mean, they're just becoming ungovernable in these last 2 rounds. They're not being contained by these things, which Revenge Nation are trying to pull on them. That Doki beat that they brought the last round, which we're not going to see a repeat of again, just didn't have the effect it should have, because they weren't able to get into a position to use that utility properly. So we'll see if things go more smoothly for them this time. We're seeing a 3rd site come out now for Fluffy Aimers as they goes for some early aggression. But hopefully for their sake, they are able to work something here with this being kind of an offsite a little bit for Fluffy Aimers, but I'm not convinced based off what I've seen the past 2 rounds.
Honestly, it's just, again, like missing key information on like simple areas. And so, I mean, to be fair, now in this round, they brought a Grim, they've also brought the Ayana for extra information, but really what I'm looking for is for the drones to be like a lot more effective and for them to be in actual effective spots so that Revenge Nation can know when Fluffy Aimers are going to be aggressive, because so far they've been caught off guard so many times, and it seems like it's going to continue in this round.
Rainbow being caught off guard, that's a lot of utility off of the board, and one of the main fraggers for this roster who hasn't been able to get online. He's just been shut down every round. Aside from 1 kill, Rival is still poking at this, just trying to waste as much time as he can. That's what we're all wondering at the end of the day, man. It's all good. I think someone's actually on cam on that robot, just giving a little bit of information, but we'll see based off the placement of that C4. And yep, Lucario going to be taken out by a C4 from Rival. Beautiful info play there. Nomad trying to get a pick on the Rival. He successfully gets it. Swamp Fox gets one as well. Evens things out. Snake and Rival both fall here. Rival's hot hand has been shut down completely. And there's a minute and 20 seconds for them to continue working this, but Deity is going to make that difficult. Still contesting red stairs. He gets the second as well. Everything is left up to Titans yet again. Drops down into pillar from that top floor. Deity's aware of this positioning. He gets killed off though. Immediately, Titans walks down those brown stairs looking for the next fight. Empty gives it to him, but he returns more damage his way. And now these defenders is looking to waste his time. Empty's still in this position, but he just knows he has to waste time, but waste time no more as he gets that pick as Fluffy Aimers are up 3-0.
Yeah. Revenge Nation couldn't really get anything started in that round. Like, from the moment they tried to, like, they didn't really get into the map, really. They just died outside of it. And honestly, it's what we've talked about at the beginning. Like, the fact that the scariest thing about Fluffy Aimers is the fact that they will just get aggressive and be very successful at it. And it seems like a lot of, like, high T2 teams, you consider, like, CL4L, for example, very good aggressive team that will just win gunfights against you. And even if it looks like you have a chance of winning the round, like, individual players will just step up and destroy you. And that's what's been happening the last few rounds. I mean, irregardless of Revenge Nation not really droning too well, it sometimes just doesn't matter when Fluffy Aimers are still gonna, like, peek you from the moment you try and spawn in and are very successful at it. So opening 3 rounds goes in favor of Fluffy Aimers. They now pick into a second floor site. And really, I'm hoping that the individuals here from Revenge Nation can kind of match up to Fluffy Aimers, but that's going to be quite hard considering, well, the pedigree of, like, the players here on this team.
I think something that's important to bring up as well is that Fluffy Aimers have pretty consistently had a player style that is very aggressive, but very put together. They like to play very aggressive, but they're structured in that aggression. And even when their aggression isn't working, like, they're worried about Snake spawn peaks now. He's not just letting them have easy access to even their spawn locations because they want Revenge Nation to be afraid. But then they also have the teamwork and the structure behind that aggression. So when they go for those plays, there are safety nets. There are precautions set in place in case they lose those early bodies. Because even when we've seen drastic man counts for Revenge Nation, they haven't been able to capitalize at all because Fluffy Aimers are just good at countering that. Now, we are going to see the Monty being brought out here by Swamp Fox. So their top fragger has now been taken off of a gun, but he's going to be able to use this to just walk at people. But if they don't know that Deity is here, the Monty is dead right off the bat. Nomad gets one, but Deity gets a second as well. Still trapped inside of this box, but it doesn't matter. The rest of Fluffy Aimers tagging on. He's finally going to be finished off, but not after dealing so much damage. And now Rival, he's getting aggressive as well. They aren't letting Revenge Nation have any little bit of ground. Nomad, Rainbow rather, just going to try to walk in sight. He's going to meet a player out in this hallway. Going to meet Snake. He gets that pick. Only 1 versus 2 left. Fighting with this player inside a pillar. They're both on top of each other. Both playing for this trade. Rainbow going to play Ring around the Rosie. Takes a fight on the mute. Doesn't win it. Rival and JJ still up. Still playing these fights. They're just wasting his time. They're just dealing damage. And eventually the war of attrition goes the way of Fluffy Aimers. As yet again, not a chink in the armor, not a single dent. They're up 4-0.
I like the fact that Revenge Nation were at least trying something new. They brought the Monty out in order to help them kind of quell the aggression, quell the aggression there from Fluffy Aimers, in a sense, and try and gather more information. But again, they just kind of like... The one thing about Monty is that his back is exposed. We all know this, right? And so you kind of have to drone around the Monty before he can enter in. And again, Revenge Nation don't really take the time to drone in these, like, secluded spots. Like, you know what? Cigar Box isn't really secluded at all. It's the fact that it's right there, and usually somebody will try and hide in there in order to catch a team off guard, especially if you're trying to make an entry work on that 3rd floor through top red. Again, Revenge Nation don't take the precautionary rule to drone out Cigar Box, to drone out a place where a Fluffy Aimer player is ratting, and they pay for it by the Monty dying first, and now their clear is jeopardized just because you lose a crucial operator that's dedicated to you clearing that part of the map.
Yeah, and it's like you said as well, just the drones that they've been bringing just haven't been adequate. Now there's Lucario this round, taken off the board, and that's the Dokkaebi they've been trying to bring out to make that droning easier and to make up for some of that lackluster droning. Now they are going to get a pick back onto JJ pretty early on as he's going to overexpose himself, but Diddy is going to get that one right back, and then he's going to go for some more. Why not? Just kill the Blitz too. Go out for more. Doesn't even matter if you die. Everyone else dying around you on the other team. Nomad, though, he has a 3K this round. He has an opportunity for another if this Echo overexposes himself. So far, playing it carefully. Even from the outside of the building, Nomad is wary of this. He wants this fight. This round becomes so much easier if he gets that fight. But it's not being given to him. It's just wasting his time. 2 minutes left for the 1 versus 2. Perfectly doable. But he has to use this time carefully, and he has to be kind of sneaky with it as well, as if they know where he is, they could rotate around the site and get that coverage they need to lock him out.
I think here is that it's again another 1v2 for Revenge Nation. You do have Nomad, who's the top frag for Revenge Nation, as well as him being on the Ying. And the thing about the Ying that's very important here is that he can use those Candelas in order to split off the remaining 2 players here from Fluffy Aimers, and then force a 1v1 engagement with a player that is maybe not flashed, or who knows, maybe is flashed alongside his brethren, and then they can't really support one another. Like you mentioned earlier, Fluffy Aimers' biggest strength is the fact that they're not only wrestled, but that they work together.
On red stairs, and the drop from up top, empty with the hip fire spray while jumping, finishes him off as we see ourselves go up 5-0. Fluffy Aimers are absolutely running away with this, as Revenge Nation just can't capitalize. They aren't working together nearly enough to disrupt these Fluffy Aimers players, who are just getting aggressive. They're just getting in the faces and using that mechanical skill to just take and win these gunfights. And then, like we've both said now after that last round, Fluffy Aimers are doing that together. They're being aggressive in ways that are very put together, where they're not leaving obvious gaps. And yeah, they are kind of throwing themselves at Revenge Nation now. I mean, why not? Even when people are just running at them and dying, they're not taking advantage of it.
Also, like, I don't mean to be harsh, but also most of the players on Revenge Nation aren't like shooting back apart from Nomad. He's the only positive player. You have 2 players that are 1-5 and another who's 2-5, and then Swamp Fox, who's not that far from like breaking even, just breaking even by being 3-5. And so again, the individuals here from Revenge Nation just need to step up. Like, the spawn peaks are something that are hard to counter with drones, and I understand that. So the next time Fluffy Aimers does that, now that you know to expect it, you should be able to shoot them and counter them, like they're doing right now with Rainbow, shooting right back at Snake after he tried that same spawn peak just outside of the top or the White Hall window.
They're being a lot more cautious now as they exit their spawns, but that is taking more time. And time, they've had plenty of it to work with before, but even if they keep those bodies up, if Fluffy Aimers have the time on their side, things can still get very, very difficult. So now we see these flanks being held as people are trying to get up to the building still. 45 seconds into the round, and just now everyone's on top of the buildings, and I mean, why not kill Swamp Fox early on, as we see, I believe it was Empty Do on that. As now we see Empty, he's still trying to get aggressive here, and they waste so much utility on him. Snake gets a player as well, peeking that same hatch as Fluffy Aimers. They aren't giving anything up for free. Every little bit of brown Revenge Nation take comes with a body count, but Titan gonna add 2 to his as he takes out Empty and JJ, but Snake gets a second onto Lucario and brings the man advantage back into the favor of his team. Swamp Fox lays on the floor, tries to make something happen, but Snake is ready for it, and it's on a triple for him, as now 1 versus 3 for Titans. Make that a 4K for Snake as they're up 6-0 going on to this attack.
My bad. I had a moment. Yeah, that is a Chaka moment. I was muting myself because I was being too loud. So I was gonna reference a point that you made like during the map ban phase where we were kind of like talking about best of threes and how some teams just need to be careful with it when it comes to like their picks and bans. And so I think this is
Attackers
like
need
a
to
lesson
locate
to
and
be
defuse
learned
as many
because
bombs as
Cafe
they
is a
can.
very strong map for fluffy aimers. And Labs was too. That was a good ban from Revenge Nation to take that away from them. But to leave Cafe up, a map that
Attackers
Fluffy
have
Aimers
discovered
is
the
known to
location
be
of a
good
bomb.
at, and now that they're 6-0 up, this kind of drives home the point that I was kind of like afraid of and that I made at the beginning is that Fluffy Aimers are really good at this map. And now you're in a best of 3 with them. And even if you do win Consulate, you go to Clubhouse next in the decider, where Fluffy Aimers is also good at that map. It doesn't really seem like Revenge Nation really read into how Fluffy Aimers have played this map because time and time again they've been caught off guard on these attacks.
Attackers are moving to defuse a bomb.
Yeah, map bans are a tricky thing, as it is often a balance of trying to ban out your opponent's best maps and also weighing out if you're better at it than they are. Seeing some spawn peaks come out from Revenge Nation, much like what we saw from Fluffy Aimers. JJ, though, gets the better of one of them, and judging by this lineup, imagine we're going to see some tomfoolery afoot once they actually get into these positions at the top of the building. Rival on that shield combined with JJ on that Finka means they can move very, very fast once they're in the position to do that. And we're going to see immediately drop coming out from Rival onto Cigar Shop. JJ gets taken out by Lokirio. As now we're going to see Snake get another one for himself as the man advantage is back in his team's favor. Rival setting himself up to try to run through here, but Lokirio, he's been a good line of defense so far. He sees these players, he sees this blitz, he knows where he is. And now they're being halted. They're being forced to stop. Snake is killed off by Rainbow as well. Things aren't going like they usually have for Fluffy Gamers so far, but Deity gets one pick back. Nick got 2 picks back as he gets that pick on the Rainbow.
Attackers have dropped the bomb.
7-0's on the line here. Swamp Fox in a 1 versus 2. The Blitz knows where he is. And Rival gonna run at him with the pistol and eventually claims his life. But Deity claims Rivals in the process. As now Fluffy Aimers take the first map 7-0.
Debut for Snake, and he's showed up really, really well here for Fluffy Aimers. And honestly, like, he didn't have a good statistic at the beginning of the game. I think it was negative, and it was mainly only just like Deity and I believe like Empty that was showing up, or actually it was Deity and Rival who were showing up for a little bit. And then as the game went on and Fluffy Aimers got more and more aggressive and their confidence started to get higher and higher, we saw Snake come into the game, and now he's positive, and now he's 6-4, and he looks really, really good. So at the moment, like Fluffy Aimers just like look very, very scary. And sure, it's against like Revenge Nation, who aren't as well known as like some other staple tier 2 teams, but it's still a good result nonetheless. They did not make this game close whatsoever.
No, they did not. And Revenge Nation are going to be forced to go into Consulate with a little bit of a lead given to their opponents. We'll see how that goes. That being said, though, we're going to send things over to a quick break just to get things ready, but don't go anywhere because we're going to be right back.
see you when you came home. Cause you always try to hurt me, and that's so low. When I talk to you about it, you're in defense mode. Whoa, oh, 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 oh. How can we work on ourselves when you say no? Whoa, oh, oh, oh. I'll never go on like this, so don't you think you got me up? Yeah, I can't seem to deal with this. You try so hard to pull me in.
Got me hooked though.
Well, she pulling me in like a black hole, trapped in a grip and I can't break, out of control and I can't feel my soul and my heart on my damn face. Cause I ain't be nothing without her, a king with no queen and no damn kingdom, serving up hate with a cold vengeance. Fuck, but I hate her, we can't slay them. Yeah, she's got me hooked, I'm down, I ride, leaving, she tried to kill me, I can see it in her eyes. Yeah, she's got me shook, this my demise, I'm bleeding, can someone heal me? I can't deal with no more lies. I'll never go.
Welcome back. For those of you who are just getting here, Chaka and I watched Revenge Nation play Fluffy Aimers on Cafe. And I mean, Chaka, why don't you give us a little bit of a rundown here, just while we're kind of setting things up for this next game?
No, because I can like sum this up in like 4 words. Revenge Nation got destroyed. That was a sweep from Fluffy Aimers, if I'm being completely honest. And it's not just it's a skill gap or anything like that. It's not that. I think Fluffy Aimers definitely did play better on an individual level, and they do have the better players. But I also think that Revenge Nation just kind of had like some small hiccups. There were rounds that were very possible to win, and like I'm referencing specifically like the first round, like they got full top floor control, and then what happens? They don't drone Cocktail. They don't drone the rest of Cigar Lounge. They also don't have a flank drone with 2 players dead for Red and JJ flanks. Amty gets a kill in Cocktail Lounge, and DD is still upstairs in Cocktail Lounge himself, or Cocktail Lounge, yes, himself, and he gets a kill as well. And they just kind of like it's always just a lack of info consistently throughout every round that is very possible for them to win. So I'm hoping going into Consulate is something a little bit different. They bring out a lot more intel. They check their corners better, knowing that Fluffy Aimers will rat, and also just be wary that because Fluffy Aimers are an aggressive team, they will take those early peaks. You have to be prepared for that.
Especially since Consulate is a very, very large map. If they don't check their corners, if they don't do their due diligence, could be catastrophic. But I believe our players are ready, so let's send it over to that game once everything is set up and just see how things are going to go. Now, we've talked about the map bans quite a bit because, I mean, why would you take Fluffy Aimers to Cafe? That is a very bad idea. But now we're in Consulate, which is a very, very good map for Fluffy Aimers. I mean, X-Makers/CL4L, I've kind of outshone them on Consulate for a while because that team is just like the Consulate team. They've beat at least 2 pro teams on it, I think, now as of the last chance qualifiers. I know they beat Oxygen on there. I don't remember if they beat anyone else in there. But now Fluffy Aimers, they have a chance to kind of show what they can do on this map. Revenge Nation going to start us off with a Grim ban, which is an interesting one for this map. But when you consider the utility Grim brings and the ability he has to kind of herd people around, it is a very sensible ban.
And I wonder if Fluffy Aimers is going to stick with the Capital ban. I'm pretty sure they wouldn't ban a Monty, because even though Revenge Nation did pick into the Monty quite a bit on Cafe, it wasn't really effective. So I hope now that we see the Deimos ban, if Revenge Nation, once they do get on that text and they do start to play around a Monty, that they provide more support around them. Deimos being banned on Consulate makes a lot of sense. This is one of his best maps, just considering the hefty amount of verticality that exists throughout all stages of or all layers of this map from the basement to the first floor to the second floor.
Valkyrie being banned out as well. Kind of the same principle. There are a lot of soft floors that you can see forward, a lot of really great places to stick cameras that you kind of need an IQ to find, so Fluffy Aimers just don't want to give Revenge Nation that kind of advantage. Zombie being banned out as well. I'd argue this isn't a great map for her, but Fluffy Aimers used her to great effect last map. So it does make sense that Revenge Nation don't want to see that. They want to get rid of her here completely. As we see two shields immediately pop up in that lineup from Fluffy Aimers, which aren't locked in yet because of how attacker repick works. But we'll see how they go.
I wouldn't be surprised if they do stick it. I mean,
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
it has certainly become a trend in the last few months over the regular or the Pro League stage for all regions. Inside of Pro League, for example, whenever I've seen the game, like Seeker, for example, they love to do the double shield. They did that a whole bunch when they beat BDS on Border during the regular season of Stage 2. So would not be surprised if this is something that Fluffy Aimer sticks. We are going to be starting off on the second floor, and I see some interesting picks here from Revenge Nation. They have a lot of delay utility through the Goyo, the smoke, but also they have the Legion as well. They're running a lot of traps. They know that Fluffy Aimers like to move quick, and also it's a good move considering the fact that they are bringing and sticking these double shields.
We'll see how this all pans out. I do like the pick of that Finka as well to go along with the shields, just to kind of boost their potency a little bit. As we see a pretty similar approach to last time from Fluffy Aimers in the looks of it, though a little bit more methodical than before. As they're trying to figure out where these extended players are and trying to get them to go back. Diddy get us some Titans straight back to the grave with alert up white stairs. And that's also going to give the cameras over to Fluffy Aimers. Rival's just planning inside, or JJ, just planning inside of the site here. Rainbow is going to get a pick, and they're going to try to fight JJ, but he just ends up getting killed off. Now we see the Doc here in a very similar position. Didi gets a second, JJ gets a second as well. All of them to Rainbow on that SMG-11. Inside a break room, there are just too many people going after him. JJ knifes 3 people with that shield, as no matter what they do, Revenge Nation cannot stop this momentum even after the break.
Not like the amount of delay utility that they brought alongside the one trap operator in Legion. I thought that was going to be really, really good in stopping Fluffy Aimers from progressing really far on that admin tick they were committing to. But Revenge Nation almost just didn't really play around any of that utility. In fact, they left a big gap inside of sight. And I mean, they did throw one smoke grenade in the middle of the break room towards admin. But I'm letting JJ just kind of walk his way up the stairs. There's no Goyos activated. Only one smoke is used. And the Legion traps aren't really effective in slowing Fluffy Aimers down. And he's still able to get inside of sight, get a plant down almost before really just isolating the last 2 players that were around the site but very far away from each other, and just getting those 2 kills. Fluffy Aimers do a very good job of recognizing a gap and taking advantage of it, but Revenge Nation just didn't really have the quickest reaction time, nor no presence on that meeting site.
I think they also just, on an individual level, tried to 1v1 the Monty at least twice, which is really weird when you consider how Monty works in this current iteration of Siege. Bit of an awkward decision for sure, but we'll have to see how that goes for the rest of this series. To the basement here, we have a Tachanka in play, but he's off on adventures, which is a way to play Tachanka for sure. We see a Monty inside of Tellers, though, as he's going to make his way down into the basement, as he doesn't want to play with that fire. He is still going to be extended, but not quite so far that JJ has an easy fight to take. We do see Rival make his way into the basement behind the Tachanka, and if they don't know where he is, this could be deadly. So Rival is just kind of lurking outside of the site here. JJ's gotten his own pick, so is Empty. Rival hitting the backside as well. Everything's left up to Titans, who's just off of the site on the top floor. He has to make his way all the way down Spiral. Try to find these players. But they know where he is now. JJ gets that spot before he gets his head removed. He's going to continue peeking this hallway. He gets a second, but Rival on that cuts him down before he can do anything further, as we're up to 9 rounds in a row for Fluffy Amers.
And Fluffy Amers just using the Monty to really good effect, bringing a lot of tension. Revenge Nation don't. In that round, they don't really bring as much to do with the Monty, just the Legion. I also think they had a Fenrir in that round too, as well as a Tuberal, but the Tuberal isn't really used for the Monty. It's used to deny the main breach, which, surprise, surprise, Fluffy Amers didn't really go for in that round, especially what's considering what's very common for that basement site. And like, they just don't really have a good answer to the Monty. He's bringing all that attention down a locker hallway, and then the rest of Fluffy Amers just kind of like swarm around the Monty, play really well off of it. And there's nothing that Revenge Nation can do apart from, well, in the upcoming round, now they're going back to the basement site. They're bringing the Legion again, but this time they're going to bring more to try and counter it. The Goyo is there, but most notably, the Clash is also here from Nomad.
Yeah, it's a really, really tricky situation they found themselves in. I do like the pick of the Capcan as well as the Clash. So they are trying to bring things to stop this as much as they can. But so far, we've just seen Fluffy Amers walk through that utility without it really having any significant effect. You also see this Amaru being brought out by Deity, and that potentially gives an opportunity for some sort of lurk or just positioning way outside of the realm of what Revenge Nation could predict. As it looks like Rival's going to try to open up this main wall along with Snake, and then Empty's just going to contest it. Speaking of which, Rainbow down immediately to that glass, as now the wall is being fully opened up. They're just running in off of that Blitz. Find the Clash, but they don't find Lucario sitting on this pillar. JJ gets one, Empty gets a second one, 2 versus 2 now. Everything's left up to Deity now. In a 1 versus 2, but he's got the back push, but no, Lucario, the better shot in that gunfight, as now finally they found the formula to take down Fluffy Amers, if only for 1 round.
The key to that was just having the Clash still up and Fluffy Amers just not expecting it on the upper part or the upper platform of Garage. Like, they just rush in. Clash is right there staring at them, denying the plant, and Fluffy Amers are like, oh, wait, okay, let's try and kill the Clash. But there was somebody in the middle of Garage, it was Lucario on Nagoyo, playing on top of the pillar, and he was able to swing and get like 2 picks for his troubles. Really, the Clash was very effective in slowing down an initial entry from Fluffy Amers, who, well, they not only didn't expect it, but they also just didn't bring any utility to play around the Clash because they just didn't know it existed. They didn't have any EMPs, well, for the Garage wall most notably, but they also just didn't have it to shut down the Clash specifically. So a really good move from Revenge Nation to have the Clash in that basement round. It doesn't seem like they want to stick it in the very next.
I think as well, something we have to note is the fact that they didn't expect Lucario's position on that pillar, and that also really hurt them in the end. I think a faster backstab from Deity as well would have made a world of difference, but alas, Revenge Nation finally start to stem the bleeding. We see them being very aggressive on these outer edges of the map, much like we saw Fluffy Amers do on that previous map. So far, though, it hasn't been anywhere near as effective, as Fluffy Amers are expecting it, and the aggression itself is, I think, not of the same quality. As now we see a very normal lineup from Fluffy Amers, as Fluffy Empty takes out Nomad, who yet again is gonna fall early on, and he doesn't really have any impact.
What?
Free frag, though, comes in the form of Snake getting naded by his teammate, but Rival, he gets a pick back, and then some, trying to fight onto this mute. Not working out so far, but Empty is good for that. Gets the drop shot onto Titans right afterwards, and JJ kills off Swamp Fox. As yet again, everyone falls in quick succession to the gun skill that Fluffy Amers bring.
Just took bathroom really, really quickly, and once they got the kill from the player rotating in from long desk to baguette, then that like helped the white push to be successful because there was like nobody to really support the player who was trying to aggress and get the quick trade onto rival inside of the bathroom area. And again, that's kind of a common trend that seems to be happening with Revenge Nation in regards to the second floor site, is the fact that they just seem very separated from each other. Like they cannot support each other at all, which means that Fluffy Aimers can, because they're really good at playing so well off of each other, so well close together, that means that they can just overwhelm these single isolated players who are trying to make plays for themselves, not because they want to do it, not because they can't help themselves, but because they need to do it, because they're at such a disadvantage already with how much control Fluffy Aimers seem to quickly take.
I think as well, let's not kid ourselves. The mechanics are pretty overwhelmingly in favor of Fluffy Aimers right now. The gun skill has just been off of the charts. And so even when Fluffy Aimers are taking these solo fights on these exposed players, they're overwhelmingly winning them. I mean, we've seen JJ especially get really, really good kills with pistols on those shields. And they just haven't been properly contested by these Revenge Nation players. Even though they're not really taking anything fully, they're just kind of getting into the building and then running at people. As we're going to see that same thing be brought out here. JJ goes for the fight on the Legion and actually wins it. Now he has to try to fight these angles in sight, but he gets caught in the crossfire. Nomad gets a 2K as well. Titans shuts another down. The execute comes out so early, and it only leaves Deity and Empty. 2 versus 4. As now they have to try to find these picks back one by one. Dokbi Call comes out, leads to 1 kill, but Deity not able to get, or Empty rather, not able to get anything else. Titans gets killed off as well. And this aggression finally getting shut down, at least semi-consistently, by Revenge Nation.
Response there was very quick from Revenge Nation as well to support one another, and crossfires were able to be really, really effective. And that time they actually got to establish crossfires. It wasn't just like, oh, one player gets overwhelmed, they die really quickly, and then another player who's like trying to be aggressive is by himself, and then they die because there's just too many people to aim at. No, that time Fluffy Aimers try and aggress in from U-Haul. They go in through the painting window as well. Snake dies almost immediately by dying to the Fenrir playing inside of that area. And then because they know that Fenrir is there, the Blitz is like, oh, well, he's isolated. Let me go and rush them, because they got that impression due to the previous amount of rounds where Revenge Nation players were isolated. He goes in, Lakirio's there almost immediately to support him. I think what would have benefited Fluffy Aimers in that round, though, is to go for a back push like they've been doing this whole entire time. Not just been main pushes, it's been main pushes and one player going in from back. So that those crossfires aren't going to be as effective to be established when it comes to the main push happening.
Attackers are moving out to locate a bomb.
So I do want to see how the defense of this map is going to go for Fluffy Aimers, because this map can be oppressive to attack against a team that knows what they're doing. And I would make the argument that Fluffy Aimers know what they're doing on this map. Although we have started to see Revenge Nation play into this aggression from Fluffy Aimers a little bit. They're doing kind of the same thing in a lot of ways. They're getting freaky in very similar areas and in very similar ways tactically, and it has been working here. We're going to see JJ going to lurk in through servers here, see if he can find something. Snake as well, making his way down here with Rival as JJ finds that first pick on the lurk. They're still rushing, but it's being so staggered out, and the clash is ineffectual now. Rainbow, the only one left, and yet again, completely off of the site, nowhere near his teammates. 1 versus 5, Plant is going down from Deity. He's just gonna wait this one out. Trying to make some vert with that shotgun. Try to find any way to be effective against these players, but Snake goes and gets him instead. And we get a 4-2 half from Fluffy Aimers. Even with all the tomfoolery we saw And now they're going to go onto this defense. And if it's anything like the defense they had on the previous map, could be a quick one.
Sorry. 4-2 for a console attack is extremely good for fluffy aimers. Now, considering the fact that they do have to go into defense, like you mentioned earlier, defense can be really oppressive on this map. And one of the main reasons why is because of how, like, I wouldn't say tipsy-turvy. Consulate is like a maze. There's just so many choke points on this map just because of the amount of turns and corners and also hallways that exist on this map, especially when you take into account it's not just like one floor, it's all of them. So, and because we know that fluffy aimers are quite an experienced team, they can play into the choke points, into the oppressiveness of how defensive sided this map can get, and also be really effective with their traps in these choke points. So Revenge Nation not only need to be wary of like the amount of traps that they can bring on their defensive lineups, but also, again, like we mentioned when we talked about Cafe, be wary of these choke points, these small corners that fluffy aimers will hide in.
As the great High Barrett once said, this map is all about team fights. And that's been something fluffy aimers have been good at so far. Swamp Fox almost killed off by a spawn peak, but he survives for now. Well, they might get taken out by another one if he isn't careful here to check this doorway. However, JJ, he's killed off immediately. Swamp Fox is refragged, however, but Nomad has the refrag on the refrag. As now, everything's going the way of Revenge Nation. Well, a quick pick goes the way of the fluffy aimers. As Nomad gets yet another for himself. The over-aggression, it's being punished now as Revenge Nation throw Empty into a 1 versus 3. He's trying to fight this Monty while he's by himself on the Checkers stairs. But he's not budging here. He's trying to force this awkward fight, and the crossfire comes out as well. Beautiful play from Revenge Nation to take advantage of that over-aggression.
And I really think that that was kickstarted by Snake running out of the main door and then dying. And then the rest of the fluffy aimers feel like they need to make a play. They need to try and do something. But also, a lot of kills happened over by the admin side of the map. Again, where fluffy aimers were just trying to get too aggressive in that time. And at that time, Revenge Nation were actually much prepared for it than they were on Cafe. Where previously, a lot of those runouts, a lot of those aggressive plays where the Monty is just kind of like pushed so far forward, his back is exposed, and then the fluffy aimers player is like behind him and ready to kill him and very successful in doing so. That time, it's not really as effective because he has more support around him. They know exactly where fluffy aimers are going to be aggressing from because they already have the information to support them in doing so. So that was a very solid round, playing around the Monty a lot more, supporting him a lot more than they previously did when they were playing him so many times on Cafe.
10 seconds left.
And now they get a round for their very first round of attack on a very strong site on that second floor.
5 seconds left.
Yeah, it's a great way to start things off here. We'll have to see if they can do that again. I want to see what tomfoolery Snake is going to try to pull with this, oh, I forgot the name. Scopos. That's what it is. She allows you to teleport back to the sites and to control 2 robots, but getting it killed off on a counter spawn peak by that Monty. As yet again, Revenge Nation had been very proficient at shutting down this early aggression that is being thrown at them. Titans as well, taking up a position on a lurk on the top floor here. He is spotted on a camera, so they're going to know exactly where he is. We're also seeing a gunfight take place between the two Bro and Monty. So far, no one is going to win, but Monty is being slowed down, but no, he wins it out anyways. Rival horribly misplays that, and now the man advantage yet again in the hands of Revenge Nation.
Yeah, and that time, again, Rival's just by himself, and he's trying to take a one-on-one engagement with the Monty. Granted, the Monty doesn't, like, charge right at him and melee him and then, like, kill him with the shield. He just kills him with the gun. Titan doesn't really have a drone in front of him. He didn't have a drone in front of him when he was going on that entry on the second floor, and he he loses that gunfight just due to a lack of intel and not expecting JJ inside of the storage closet area. So Fluffy Aimers do get a kill back, but you still have the Monty up in a 4v3.
Do they know where JJ is? Yes, they do. And now he has to take that fight, and he actually wins it. Lucario dies on that shield, and JJ, he's just gonna stick around here. Deity as well is ratting over by Yellow Stairs. That's allowed Swamp Fox to make his way in, but Deity has his own pick. And then he gets the second of the Swamp Fox as well. Everything up to Nomad here in a 1 versus 3. Two of these players are low health, though. Potentially win these gunfights off body shots alone, but Empty's better. As we see Fluffy Aimers find their footing yet again, especially off of, like you've been saying, some poor droning from the side of Revenge Nation.
And I also think the Monty just didn't really play it that well. One thing that I see that's very common with like Lucario playing the Monty, which he's been the main Monty player when it comes to Revenge Nation, is the fact that he likes to ADS a lot. That's not a good thing, especially if Fluffy Aimers are smart enough to read into it, and they are. JJ just smokes him as soon as he tries to pull out his pistol to go for an ADS gunfight. And then the rest of Revenge Nation falls because of a lack of intel. That's something that's been plaguing them since map number 1. But really, the Monty dying in that way with the Fuser and JJ able to get away because they don't really have any control over my Spiral. It's just a back push towards server and a main push from the main breach. It just doesn't really spell success for me. And so now Fluffy Aimers, they find themselves now 1 round away from putting themselves on match point. And they go back to the second floor site, and I imagine that they're probably going to be playing just as aggressive. Maybe pull it back slightly because that's what lost them that last round when they were playing the same exact site.
With me, or for me, the types of questions with these games is always, when does the team that is fooling around start trying? When is it enough? When is their opponent good enough for them to take things seriously? And it looks like we have some sort of answer, but no! JJ too aggressive on that run out. Nomad gets revived, and JJ falls early. We do see another run out here, but not nearly as much commitment from Ampty as there was from JJ. As now, going to see Revenge Nation go at this 1 man up yet again. Is they're being more careful now. They know these runouts are going to happen. They know the spawn peaks are going to happen. They know Fluffy Aimers are going to be hyper aggressive whenever they can be. And so they're being careful. They're watching for it. They know the game so far. And they're actually kind of forcing Fluffy Aimers to play back a little bit. With that Lurk they would be able to get away with before. Snake, though, manages to get one. Deity with a C4 onto another, and Rivals taking this space right back. The Monty has made his way in the first floor, but now he has to fight the smoke. The run out comes from Rival. It gets a pick on the Titan. Lucario and Swamp Fox, now the last 2 alive. The Bandit trying to run away. Manages to win that gunfight, though. Smoke trying to jump out on him as well. They know the Monty is low. They want this pick as soon as they can get it. They're trying to isolate these 2 fights, and so far it's working. Swamp Fox, though, he gets that pick onto Empty. Everything is up to Snake. 1 versus 2. Minute 5 seconds left. Monty has the diffuser. They can get to the site and plant it if Snake gives them that space. But it looks like he's going to fall back. Just try to get to the site and play this safe. He only has to waste 50 seconds of time here, but he doesn't have any smoke canisters to do it. And the SMG-11, if he needs to take a long gunfight with either of these players, could potentially be a detriment. However, though, Swamp Fox reads into that flank that he goes for. As yet again, Revenge Nation, they read into things. They're keeping this close. Fluffy Aimers can't get away with the same things they did before.
I was wondering what that breakage was, but it turns out that Snake just made a loud, audible cue as to where he was going to flank from. So it was really no secret where he was going to try and make that play from. Because to be fair, that was probably the only way he was going to win, considering that the Monty was up And also, you have a player supporting right behind him. So you really have to try and get in behind Revenge Nation, but he just made too much of a sound by just breaking the hatch that wasn't broken early by Fluffy Aimers. And that kind of tells me how seriously they're kind of taking Revenge Nation because of the fact that they did 7-0 them on Cafe. And they know that on an individual level that they are better than them. But like for the past 2 rounds, Revenge Nation, or for the past 2 rounds that they've been playing on that second floor, Revenge Nation have shown that they are capable of like countering over aggression from Fluffy Aimers. They've been shooting back. Their numbers have been better this map than they were in the second. At least you have more than one player who's going positive, or near positive actually. Titans is still negative, but he's close to breaking even. But still, they're very capable of stopping the over-aggression from Fluffy Aimers, who clearly are not really respecting their opponents enough.
I am curious if we're going to see a point when Fluffy Aimers start taking things a little bit more seriously, which I kind of speculated would be the case last round, but I guess didn't end up being the case, at least not yet. So we'll see if that comes to fruition here. We are seeing more normal, quote-unquote, lineups come out of Fluffy Aimers here, as we see something that is maybe something you'd see in a meme tournament come out of Revenge Nation for this lineup, but everything here does make sense. Seeing JJ still try to play aggressive here early on, along with that smoke being brought out by Snake, but JJ isn't overcommitting to this fight like he did the last time. He's falling off just a little bit before trying to go back at it again. But he's not just throwing his life away, he is teasing the glass, but he's also wasting time. They're focused on trying to win out this gunfight with JJ, and that is just wasting time they could spend getting into the building. Rainbow, though, gets some top kills off JJ, who's the only opening pick yet again. Rival, however, is locked inside a break room, and he gets that refrag. Now, though, he's worried about Rainbow still being up here with him. Snake makes his way to the basement, trying to clear out Rival from this position, throwing Zof stuns at him, but he's just gonna hide here and see if they drone him out. So far, no one has. The Glass inching ever closer. He gets the pick onto the Zofia. Gonna try to take another fight as well. So far, though, no one's revealing themselves quite enough. Worried about this player inside of admin. He's gonna hit the ring around the Rosie. They don't know where he is anymore. They've lost complete track of him. The Monty is going to spot him, however, but he's Oryx. He can just down the Monty. And now he's going to try to get away, but no! The Glass overextends. Rival, you're so good! As now everything falls apart. Map in match point. Secured for Fluffy Aimers.
His teammate was an enemy that whole time. Because he pulled out the sidearm so quickly. Like, oh my god. Yeah, I mean,
Oh my
it
god.
just didn't really keep track of where Rival was that whole entire time. And I counted how many drones they had. They had 4. Glass had 1. It wasn't on the map, so it was in his back pocket. And they still just didn't like take like a couple of seconds, hide behind a desk for like a couple of seconds to like drone him out, just so that they had like a good idea of what Rival was. And that was like a pretty disappointing end to that round for Revenge Nation, because I thought they did pretty well in isolating JJ in service by pressuring him with the Monty at the front door, actually putting pressure with the Glass at the front door with the Monty combined as well, but then also by going for a very bright idea, going up on the second floor, making some vertical above JJ to ensure that he didn't get out. And they also had somebody on the window around that service entrance. So I'm very confused as to how they had such good information on that initial entry towards Visa service, Visa.
5 seconds.
And then for the rest of that round, it just kind of like culminated to them not having good information on Rival, who ended up getting a 4K.
Yeah, I think there was some tunnel visioning there going on from Revenge Nation, and Rival, being the mechanical god he is, just takes advantage of it quickly. JJ spawn peeking yet again, although it doesn't look like anyone's going to expose themselves to him this time, as he's running around far, far off-site. We're seeing a blitz be brought out by Revenge Nation here, which could lead to some quick roam clears. as he gets himself into the building right away and starts looking for these defenders. So far, though, he hasn't really found anyone. Except for this player inside of Exhibition, but JJ gets a pick on the Rainbow. The Blitz is left all on his own. He gets one, but JJ has that refrag in the bag. And this opening aggression finally pays off for Fluffy Aimers. They shut down the shield, and they shut down the support on that shield, as everything is left up to Titans, Nomad, and Swamp Fox.
Man, I think it's cool that they're trying to use the Blitz as a way of getting information and going for these roam clears, but you do need a drone ahead of him just so that he doesn't suffer, so that he suffers as little damage as possible. That wasn't ensured, but none of that might not matter considering the fact that Fluffy Aimers fall around the site and the flank from Empty is detected by Titans. That now puts Revenge Nation in a 1v3, the last player alive being Snake, and he might just be known on a pillar.
They might know where he is, but if they don't know where he is, this position could be powerful. Titans, though, has the information, clears all of the angles. Or it looks like he got jump scared a little bit. But finally, Revenge Nation, they've kept things close this map. They win one more round. We go to an overtime, which I'm sure Fluffy Aimers did not expect after the beating they gave Revenge Nation last map. Now, I mean, they're on map point, they're on match point, so they can tie things up here this round if they would like to. But this playstyle they've been going for has been inconsistent, even on the defense.
And it's because I think Revenge Nation just kind of like play more off of each other. I don't really think they've improved when it comes to the drone game. I think that could use a little bit more work, but I think what they've been doing is just playing more together, and compared to how they've been doing on the first map where it just seemed like everybody was spawning every which way and it didn't really feel like they were operating, or there wasn't really much synergy between both either one of the players on Revenge Nation. This time around on console, it seems like that they're more at home, which is ironic considering the fact that this is Fluffy Aimers map pick and Cafe was their own.
10 seconds left.
So
Bomb located by attackers.
We'll see what happens here for the second floor
5 seconds to
defense,
go.
considering the fact that this is match point for Fluffy Aimers, but also Revenge Nation has almost one round away,
Objective is to
if they can win it, from putting themselves into OT and potentially taking map 2 off of Fluffy Aimers and tying the series up.
Wouldn't that be a thing to see? Speaking of things to see, SMG-11 spawn peak. Not something we see often. Rival, though, gonna make sure that Rainbow doesn't see anything. Swamp Fox as well taken off early.
attackers have dropped
As
the
now, oh my god, Rival, he's outside of the building. He's on his second kill this round. Could potentially get a third. They've locked him outside of the building with the reinforcement. Titan gets that pick off of that. But it's a 4 versus 2 now. As Fluffy Aimers are still in control. Still on the man advantage. As we see Nomad and Titans, they need to make this work. Titans gets, no, he doesn't get the first pick they need. He's gonna get killed off by Empty. Everything is left to Nomad. 1 versus 4 for everything. Trying to fight these players, but Snake has that down. And finally, Fluffy Aimers finish what they started on the first map. 2-0. They win the series.
Much closer map than the very first map for Revenge Nation, so they can at least pat themselves on the back that they were able to take at least 5 rounds off of Fluffy Aimers on console, a map that Fluffy Aimers may not be proficient in, but it's still like a pretty solid map for them, all things considered, compared to the very first map where they didn't get a single round at all. So yeah, they lost, but I feel like considering the very first map, this was probably the very best that we could have asked for Revenge Nation. They've improved on playing more together, but again, information just seemed to be like a real big kicker for them, especially when it came to them switching over to their attack.
Yeah, the information just never seemed to be there. And they were good at punishing when Fluffy Aimers would give them obvious fights, but eventually someone's going to start shooting back, and Rival started shooting back and then some while he was playing. And honestly, that last round probably wouldn't have been even the 4 versus 2 that it was if Rival had not been reinforced outside of the building by one of his own teammates, which is not something you get to cast outside of a meme tournament often. So it is definitely a fun thing to see.
No, that was funny, as well as him just killing his teammate just because he was like, his adrenaline was kicking when he was getting that, when he got that 4K, and he was like ready for the ace. But like,
He switched to that bailiff
honestly,
so fast.
yeah, honestly though, like, just it was very nice watching this game from like just a individual perspective for Fluffy Aimers. I just wanted to see mainly how Snake was fitting into this team, considering that Fluffy Aimers just initiated him into this lineup. And I also just wanted to see like what type of team were Revenge Nation. You know, first map didn't really give me a good idea because he just got rolled on it, but I think Consulate, I think they can be a solid team again if they just improved on like using their drones a little bit more, which is something that's pretty easy to fix, especially if they just watch the VOD back. But I'm not their coach. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just saying what I saw from a caster's perspective.
Well, you heard the man, Revenge Nation. You have homework now being given to you by the casters over at Blitz.
No.
That being said, though, we've had our fun for the day. We've had our game, the 2-0 Revenge Nation, losing out to Fluffy Aimers. And now, that's it for us at Blitz tonight. So thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you to the lovely production that we have. Thank you to Chalk as well for casting with me after I haven't touched the microphone in a while. That's it from us. So, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Can we talk about me and you?